Show of hands, who's using AI in any way, generative chatbots in your daily lives today? All right, we're at a tech conference. This does not surprise me that the majority of you are, but it has definitely changed the landscape. And Frank is going to come up here, talk about chatbots and things. He was actually shipping changes from the stage. So talk about shipping, talking about making products come to life. Frank has done multiple things around this space. So please, a round of applause for Frank. Please come on stage.
Hey, everyone. So, I want us to live in the future, like not too far from now, just a few years. You're building your software team. You're scaling the business and culture and product. Each are individually going very well. Many new employees are hired rapidly, are able to integrate and learn and build abilities alongside your existing teams. Some of these new employees are bots. Your bot employees are very autonomous, and in Slack, they have this little tag to tell you they're a bot. Otherwise, it's actually hard to tell. These bots are mostly high performers, but you also have to performance manage some of them. Remember, feedback is a gift, RLHF. So this talk is aimed at to get more of us thinking about building with LLMs. I'll start with a story, some basics about the technology we're working with, and what goes into collaborating with AI. Just a quick question. How many of you build like LLM agents or agentic software? Okay, a few people in the room, okay. Again, I'm Frank, pronouns he, him. At the end of this talk, I'll take some questions alongside a bot trained on me. FrankBot, pronouns AI. FrankBot has a set of my memories and abilities and reflects on what people who interact with it need help with. Here's a tiny screenshot from last night where I asked FrankBot the best way to introduce our talk today. He was helpful. I'd like to note that the abstract of this talk is actually an adaptation from short fiction I wrote with an earlier bot months and months ago. And finally, please note, this talk is separate from my software and leadership roles at Slack. So a little bit about me. I'm a senior staff software engineer in the developer productivity org at Slack. My job is to find leverage, build tools and services that help Slack engineers' lives become simpler, more pleasant, and more enjoyable. I make tools for makers. For most of my career, AI has been powerful but had limited use cases. At the last company I worked at, I taught workshops and worked with AI teams at the very largest financial, insurance, and healthcare companies in the world. I saw AI work with human feedback and workflows, oftentimes outperformed AI black boxes. It was oftentimes faster, cheaper, and more reliable. I came to Slack when my girlfriend and now wife and I used Slack as a relationship hack. I built home automations for offline to online data collection and cat training tools. I'll share my story of chat ops or cat ops as my own Slack admin sometime. I saw an opportunity to make tech that better helps us connect with each other and with agents. And so why this talk now? Things feel like they've really accelerated in the last couple of years. This quote by Kent Beck really hit it home. I've been reluctant to try ChatGPT. Today, I got over that over-reluctance. Now, I understand why I was reluctant. The value of 90% of my skills just dropped to $0. The leverage for the existing 10% just went up 1,000x. I need to recalibrate. And so, GPT-2 was a very cool technology. Copilot was a very cool autocomplete. Just 6 months ago, I had to check the dates. I wrote a tool and open sourced it called SlackGPT. It was based on GPT-3. This was before GPT 3.5 Turbo or GPT-4. And then everything in this world sped up in the last few months. ChatGPT got 100 million users in a month or something like that. The rise of agents and agentic toolkits. I built another tool around baby AGI in Slack that used a similar set of technologies. And it's like these agents have the ability to do code and consistently have objectives. But it really got me thinking more deeply about multi-agent and multi-intelligent systems. First, I want to actually round this talk with a story that's been on my mind for years. And just one sec, I had a 24-hour flight yesterday, and my throat is just very, very dry. Excuse me. In 1997, IBM supercomputer Deep Blue famously beat world chess champion Garry Kasparov in 6 games. Starting in 1998, Kasparov founded advanced chess tournaments centered on human-computer teams playing chess against each other, also called centaur chess. I found this space fascinating to study how humans, experts, and human amateurs collaborate and evolve how they work with AI. Particularly, there were multiple counterintuitive outcomes, like matchups between amateurs with lower-end chess software beating grandmasters with high-end chess software and computers. In this example from 2005, a team of 2 chess players from New Hampshire, one with an ELO of 1685 and another with an ELO of 1398, paired with 3 lower-end chess computers and chess programs, convincingly defeated a set of teams made up of chess grandmasters and much stronger both algorithms and computers. Magnus Carlsen, the current world chess champion, spoken about how he uses AI in his own chess practice, saying that it opens up new avenues for analyzing games and potential outcomes. This is just one example of how AI can be used to augment human abilities rather than replacing them. I believe these patterns extend beyond just chess. As AI continues to advance, it has the potential to fundamentally change the way we work, not just by augmenting certain tasks, but by providing us a new and innovative way of thinking about and approaching problems. So let me share that same story in a different way. The best computer and the best chess grandmaster with bad process lost to mediocre computers and amateur humans with great process. You can imagine an analog for multiple agents, whether that's humans or computers, with the right intelligence and communication, can significantly outperform massively more powerful, singular intelligent agents with bad communication. So where are we now? AI advances, nearly every single day. And I just want to acknowledge, we might be peak hype cycle. It's hard to tell from here. But, the advances are very cool. Anthropic came out with a 100K context window. So you can feed a 75-page document, approximately, into Anthropic without retrieval systems. And sorry, these are so hard to read. An influencer created an AI girlfriend bot from their videos and made $72,000 in just a week, seemingly finding product market fit with people who wanted to talk with her. And Small Developer is a tiny project started just this week, I think, aimed at using that 100K token size to create entire projects. But first, let's go through some basic concepts around working with LLMs. So what are some of the foundational ideas around it? You probably have seen this concept floating around when people talk about prompting. This comes from a paper published 8 months ago. And the one-liner is, this is a method around chaining of thought that uses LLMs to generate reasoning traces and task-specific actions in an interleaved manner, demonstrating improved performance on a diverse set of tasks. And I think the other kind of foundational idea around many of today's agents is MRKL systems, pronounced miracle. The one-liner is multi-agent models, some with reasoning abilities and others with knowledge abilities, can interact with each other to create better output. So it's like taking some of the things we already know about distributed systems and using LLMs in a systemic approach to it. And so hopefully, this is kind of hard to read. I should have mentioned this earlier. At the bottom of every slide, I actually included a URL that has all of the references from each of these slides kind of like in a condensed kind of way. So you could find this and all the other things there. And I wanted to borrow this terminology sheet from LangChain. And so like, you've heard me mention this a few times. What is an agent? Like, what is the most popular definition of an agent? Agents involve an LLM making decisions about which actions to take, taking the actions, seeing an observation, and repeating that until done. LangChain provides a standard interface for agents and a selection of agents to choose from and examples of end-to-end agents. Cool? Cool. And so taking the like 100,000-foot view of this stuff, and so there are so many changes to each of these frameworks that it's like not going to even attempt to summarize it, but here's like the one-liner for how these fit together in some of the most popular ones. LangChain, it's like the first large toolkit in the space, connects LLMs to tools and memory with agents. AutoGPT is another example of this. It's like goals are oftentimes more open-ended than LangChain. And it uses, instead of like LangChain, which tries to pass the full list of previous actions into its next step, AutoGPT uses a retrieval engine over intermediate steps. And finally, Baby AGI is an even smaller implementation of that, where the initial code was less than 150 lines of code, and it separates the planning and execution steps. I'll show what this starts to look like in the next slide. And so in this paper, generative agents, interactive simulacra of human behavior, a team from Stanford University and Google Research presents agents that draw from generative models to simulate both individual and emergent group behaviors that are human-like and based on their identities, changing experiences, and environment. They created agents powered by GPT-3 that played together in a Sims-like environment. Particularly, I'm going to take a sec just to like show what this starts to look like. Nope. There we go. Please, Wi-Fi, be with me. And so this is loading the Sims version of this game right now. And you'd see a little timestamp and different agents moving about. And this becomes really interesting when we pull up one of these agents, for example, JL, and we can see them moving about their environment. And I found this really interesting. You can click on state details and see an entire dump of, hey, what is their personality? What are they learning? What are they currently up to? And what are some of their routines? Kind of cool. And you can kind of see a local state, a global state actually, of everything in that agent's memory. So we get a bit-by-bit breakdown. It's like, in this paper area, like, I just want to describe for a sec, like, some of the really interesting emergent behaviors. One of these agents was initialized with an intent to organize a Valentine's Day party. Without any further prompting or action from the researchers, 15 other agents found out about this party. Not just that, 5 of them ended up attending. 5 of them ended up attending the party, and after, the researchers actually interviewed all of the Sims that didn't attend the party and asked them why. One of them said, "No, I don't think so. I am focused on my upcoming show, and I really don't have time to make any plans for Valentine's Day." It's like, it's kind of interesting. How cool is that? Having agents and being able to introspect them and have conversations with them at any point of the day. This is like having conversations with your backend as it's in the middle of having an error. You can start to see how this might fit together. And I just want to ground this again. This really inspired me. This paper came out about I think 4 weeks ago. These bots had objectives and interactions and had emergent effects, like planning and then deciding to attend or not attend a party. They had this really interesting way to frame the retrieval function. They scored each memory around recency, importance, and relevance. So they turned unorganized streams of memories into prioritized lists. And quite frankly, it changed the direction of this talk. I built FrankBot over this past week to play with these ideas and see what broke and what worked if we were to put it into a setting like Slack. But first, let's talk for a sec about memory retrieval. How many folk here have used vector databases or vectors for similarity search? Okay, cool. A few people. So vector databases are databases optimized for storing and querying high-dimensional vector data, such as embeddings generated by machine learning models. They enable efficient similarity search and clustering, as well as real-time retrieval of nearest neighbors. So imagine turning a sentence into a giant vector of numbers and seeing what other vectors are similar to that and be able to return the text associated with that. And so this comes up in a lot of agentic engines where they want to look for similar or relevant bits of data, but don't have the ability to embed significant context along with the prompt itself. So this is if you're asking a question about CraftConf, you can pull in all my memories or FrankBot's memories related to CraftConf in the past. And I wanted to kind of mention the 2 big players in this space. Pinecone is a cloud-based vector database service that provides fast, scalable, and easy-to-use vector similarity search and nearest neighbor retrieval. And ChromaDB is an open-source vector database that is designed for large-scale, high-throughput, and low-latency vector search and retrieval. And so putting this together, you can retrieve relevant context to an LLM query based on similarity. Oftentimes, most systems use cosine, and that's what we use for FrankBot. And there's a bunch of other use cases for vector databases too. I talked with a developer 2 weeks ago that used vector DBs for anomaly detection for autonomous driving. They vectorized entire 15-second video chunks for similarity matching against things they've seen in the past. It's kind of cool, right? It's where do these base technologies lead us? Today's trolley problem, and why is this important right now? Safety for real. It won't look like an unplug like Terminators, where you can unplug a specific machine, that's Skynet. Philosophers have debated the ethics of the trolley problem for centuries. The difference is software engineers today are building the software for ethics. And they're deciding on the rails to institute or not institute AI for the human loop. And let me say this again, just a different way. It's it's not isolated to just those that decide to drive a Tesla and do self-driving. It doesn't matter because you're going to be on the road with others who do have self-driving cars. All drivers are affected by self-driving tech. It's like, in this article from the conversation about self-driving technology, it's like, yeah, Tesla does not yet produce fully autonomous cars, although it plans to. In collision situations, Tesla cars don't automatically operate or deactivate automatic emergency braking system if a human driver is in control. In other words, the human actions are not disrupted, even if they themselves are causing the collision. Instead, if the car detects a potential collision, it sends alerts to the driver to take action. In autopilot mode, the car should automatically brake for pedestrians. Some argue that if the car can prevent a collision, then there's a moral obligation to override the driver's actions in every scenario. But would we want an autonomous car to make this decision? And of course, yeah, it's tough. And I want to take another second to think about privileges in agents. Simon Willison has an incredible set of deep dives on this work. Prompt injection is a vulnerability that exists when a crafted prompt is concatenated with untrusted input from a user. Prompt injection can lead to a variety of serious problems, including rogue assistance, search index poisoning, and data exfil attacks. And one way to potentially protect against these is to use generated prompts, make them useful, make humans in the loops. And the other is potentially using a dual LLM pattern. So build two different LLM instances, one that's privileged and one that's quarantined, so that when they work together, they're tightly controlled to prevent untrusted content from reaching the privileged LLM. And while this pattern is complex and it comes with limitations, it provides a way to build AI assistants that can be trusted with private data and sensitive tools. But I'm like, why does this seem so familiar? How many people here run untrusted code from customers? Any platform folk here from different teams, data teams, anyone from a data team? CI, teams that run CI. Yeah, CD teams. Teams that, you're responsible for the Q platform. This is a pretty familiar pattern. It's all trade-offs. And so, there's lots of potential for LLMs and generative AI agents to transform the way we work. It's important to consider the challenges and opportunities they present. What are some good takeaways if you're thinking to build this stuff? So use weighted retrieval functions from multiple sources. In FrankBot, I use a simple prompt with inputs from Chroma for documents and user reflection files. I could have further refined fidelity for vector retrieval outside the current naive cosine similarity that I have right now. Create the right interface for multiple intelligences. In FrankBot, we could have had a memory and reflection agent that was all chat. And similarly, we can now create a web UI to interact with each of these agents in turn, kind of like the Stanford experiment. How do we leverage multiple agents and understand trade-offs? Similar to the discussion by Simon Willison on privileged versus unprivileged agents, user background and distributed systems to make the right choices. In FrankBot, we use a local vector DB for the memory agent. I had some experience building some stuff out on Pinecone with Baby AGI and Slack. So this is a distributed, managed vector DB solution. I was in Honolulu for the past 2 weeks, where my local Pinecone instance was in Honolulu. So this would have meant a message being passed from Budapest to US East, where I host all my infra, to Honolulu, back to US East, back here. And now, Instead, we use ChromaDB, which is local to where I run my infra in US East, and so it's just Budapest to US East and back. And we could actually show some of these traces later. It's kind of cool to see how this comes together. And there's like lots of open questions in this space, like what does quality mean? How do you evaluate prompts? How do you evaluate few-shot learning attempts? How do you quantify and understand quality for your fine-tuning examples? What does testing mean? Can you effectively reproduce scenarios or even a priori examples of the same execution repeatedly? And finally, what does safety look like? I think it's like a really uncertain and kind of fun future to think about. And so I just want to say thank you all very much. Frank Bott and I will start taking questions.
Hello. All right. So we're going to have Frank Bott, the real Frank, and Slido for your questions, right? So please take out your phones, laptops, whatever. Go to Slido. You can enter your questions there. We're going to take questions from the audience that way and have...
Can I show one more thing?
Sure. Yeah. Can we get back his screen? Hopefully, the hashtag is CraftConf 2023. Can we get the speaker's image back on the main screen? Also gives you a good time to write questions for Frank. All right, we're back.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to mention, there's like a lot to cover here. Like we could talk about architecture. There's like some stuff about observability, different types, like types of training. I have some other examples of like multi-agent, big versus small models, like fine-tuning costs and variance of the trolley problem. Like I wanted to cut a lot and make a lot of time for questions. So let me know if you want me to talk about any of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, Frank Bott and I are around. Oh, actually, can I?
All right, let's load up Slido.
Can I actually keep presenting?
Oh, so you're going to use the Slack bot from your machine?
Is that cool?
Yeah. Can we keep the actual speaker's machine here? And I'll read out loud the questions.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm like really messing up your vibe.
No, I love this. We're not showing this screen though.
Yeah, I need to move this up to the other.
All right, yes.
Yeah. Like one of the other things I wanted to show, so I think this was yesterday. I asked a question to Frank Bott. Hey, I'm presenting at CraftConf. How should the two of us introduce the audience to our topic? And I wanted to show this stream of consciousness real quick because I thought this was pretty cool. So it pulled up a previous reflection and it got some relevant memories for the message. So it pulled up a blog article I wrote and some other stuff. And then they updated that reflection. And you can kind of see, I think I left this over here. You can kind of see we kept talking about some stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, what else might be good demos for this? AI-assisted code generation, natural language interface for APIs. That was going to be the original demo that I was going to give here, but I thought this was a lot cooler, a lot funner. And I think I'm pretty close to this timeline. I think I wanted to have a presentation for about 25 minutes and then lots of time for Q&A because I thought this would be the funnest part of the talk. And I thought the funnest demo would be AI-assisted code generation. So I don't know, let me know, what questions y'all might have. I think there might, I frankly don't know what's going to happen when we do the AI-assisted code generation, but I think I have a good idea for how to proceed there.
So can you ask the bot what would be the number one question he would ask itself about this presentation?
Yeah.
Just curious, what would it
itself
actually ask itself? Remember, so it's Slido. In Slido, the hashtag is CraftConf 2023. You have to pick the orange stage, so we know that these are the questions you want to ask here. All right.
Always
it's
the sigh of
thinking.
relief
Yeah.
with a live demo.
It's thinking. Oh, suspense. I like it. All right.
No, OpenAI completions are always kind of slow. Oh. Cool. So cool.
So we have here.
They are a presenter. They are interested in exploring the potential of integrating large language models. They are motivated by a desire to help people make better decisions and create technologies that connect them better with their true objectives. They are aware of the challenges and potential risks associated with the use of AI technology. That makes sense. But let's see what the full reply was.
How do we ensure the AI-enhanced collaboration remains ethical and safe while still taking advantage of its potential benefits? I like that one. You want to take a crack at it?
Oh, I think Frank Bot has it.
He answered it for himself as well? Yes. So you can also mention the ongoing efforts in AI research to develop guidelines and best practices for ethical AI use, as well as needed cooperation among developers, researchers, and policymakers to ensure responsible AI deployment. All right. I do have a question around using multiple agents. How do you see the future of development teams being influenced by multiple agents' use in, let's say, their work life?
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. If any of you use Replit or Copilot, any Copilot or Replit users?
Copilot.
Yeah. It's a few examples of this out right now, and I think both of them are really effective at doing what they do. One of the challenges, and so I have a few different versions of how to create pull requests. I don't think this bot is around right now, but I had a bot that takes in a message, tries to look up relevant context in a code base, creates a PR for it, and then sends a PR to me for a very small project. But it's actually really challenging to get that to work at scale. And I think many of today's interfaces rely on both retrieval as well as chat interfaces. I expect that to actually change in the near future. I think there's probably this idea of taking in multiple interface, taking in context from multiple locations. Imagine a bot that, oh, hey, we're seeing a lot of user reports of this thing being slow, or we're seeing this part of the API being slow, and be able to introspect on what changes have gone into this part of the code base recently. Or, hey, we recently had a deploy. Oh, well, this technology is not super different from probably things that you already have today around performance testing and performance regression testing. But hey, we saw this deploy to this part of the code base recently. We think this couple of PRs or this batch of PRs might have led to a performance degradation. But what happens when that performance degradation is more subtle or more interesting or an unrelated and not obvious subsystem, such as, oh, some dependency got upgraded in the most recent some patch, and everything just starts breaking in subtle and interesting ways. I think multi-agent is also quite interesting. If there's interest, I can show. So I had mentioned this talk abstract actually started off as a short story me and one of my bots wrote like many, many months ago. And if I could find my cursor, I could show some of the screenshots where, so like, hey, write an abstract for a developer conference using this message we shared a month ago. And this, like, we started off talking about a fiction writer, William Gibson, who talks about agents that can spawn other agents to go out in the world and accomplish tasks. So not too dissimilar from what we imagine like AutoGPT or Baby AGI does today. The difference is that these agents coordinated amongst themselves autonomously with human input, but they were singularly, narrowly focused, where each of them would be able to kind of chunk off sections of work to do. And I thought that was like a really interesting concept. So again, it's not one massively powerful like ChatGPT with all the plugins or one LangChain agent with all the like abilities, but singular agents that were able to do a thing, get feedback, and work with each other to continuously refine. And so I had two different agents, like one that was more optimized for writing concisely, and the other that was more generalized. And I kind of worked between each other, where we refined. I asked them for like grammatical input, and funnily enough, I don't know if you can see this, but it's like, when I asked them for grammar, correctness, or framing suggestions, they each had very different output. And we were able to just keep revising. I didn't like any of the talk title suggestions, so I realized I came up with my own and kind of like helped write this together with the two of them. I think we're going to see more and more of this kind of like blended intelligence work as part of our daily lives. And I think a lot of like today's work is all around chat. And I wonder what that starts to look like when we move outside of that modality. You know?
Yeah, for me, I'm really excited about that future where we can start using these things and kind of chaining them together, right, to kind of produce better outcomes.
Wait.
And just curiosity, how long did it take you to build FrankBot? Like, is it a huge project, multiple months, or is it relatively easy now with the new tools that we have?
So, like from start to finish, I think I started implementation about so I was on a flight for 24 hours, and then I lost 12 hours of time zone time. So I think I literally started maybe like Monday of last week. But I've been building various versions of agents for a bit. I found, I thought about using LangChain or like Llama agent to like do document indexing. And one of the things I like actually think about a lot is like performance. Performance is a feature. So like in terms of like speed, it's like there's a lot of tools to help you get started, and I think to like build a demo version of like any app, you could probably prototype ideas in like relatively quick fashion today. It's like probably in like hours instead of like days or weeks.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think I've used the AI to build more AI bots, which is very interesting, right? So you can actually ask it to build itself in a way.
Yeah. So right now we're actually looking at I'm going to find our most recent request and just like see how long this took. And so I like actually minimize the use of like any libraries here just to get a faster response time. You can see most of our time is spent just consuming the streaming AI response, the streaming OpenAI response. So it's like we're sending a response out to like, hey, and you've all seen this, just like system message plus et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, whoops.
And I see that you included reflection or introspection. Is this a common practice to understand behaviors of the bots, or would you say that this is more of you're adding it for debugging and to kind of get it better at building the bot?
Yeah, it's interesting. So this was one of the spaces I was really inspired by the Stanford paper from a few weeks ago. It's just like this space is moving really quickly. I don't think I've seen a reflection bot for an individual before. And particularly, it's like the way that they weighted different types of memories. Like with other systems, you could do similarity search, and like that's a version of what I did here. But it's similarity search plus the context of the user that's interacting with it. I thought was really interesting, and so it's like not obvious because I'm the only one interacting with it right now.
Yeah.
And I wish I had thought forward a little bit more and created a different demo user in Chrome Incognito to play with, so that you could see the differences in and like the framing and how this bot reasons about the person who's asking it questions. So like on a question-to-question basis, you can start to see, if we go back to the stream of consciousness, so it's like the first version. They're a presenter. If we ask that question, because we asked about the presentation itself,
correct.
It's like
Correct.
mostly the same.
Yeah.
But if we ask a different question, it might come out differently.
Yeah, and I think this is also very important if you're building prompts or something else, right? So to try to shape it differently, trying to get a better understanding how the model is actually thinking through the problem is also very useful.
And so I actually asked OpenIt ChatGPT to put together this bio for me, and it's pretty good. And some of the ways I specifically asked, I did stuff was I used a delimiter that's not super common. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Frank. A round of applause, please, for Frank.
Thank you all.
For your love, and for the Frank bot, also doing the work. Before you go, I just want to give you a little keepsake from us here at Craft. One of those things is a little kind of,
word.
I don't know if the camera can get this. It's a little caricature of Frank. I really like the kind of the pose here, yeah. So thanks again for talking about it. Are you going to be around today? Can people kind of find you in the hallways and the talks?
Yep, I'm around. Come find me. I'm yeah.
And as you saw, he's in Twitter. Hopefully you did take his handle and also the references to anything that you've seen here today. So thank you again, Frank.
Hey, thank you, Jose.
All right.
Cheers. Catch you around.